Yeah, so I'm starting this live because I was up late and I just wanted to get into some game. And basically, while I was up, I was sitting here thinking about um why I think for me living in the United States has become increasingly stressful for me. And I was thinking about when my father passed that I had to leave and I went to Colombia, and that was like one of the happiest times I had been in a long time. And basically I've been sitting here thinking about, you know, what I want to do next because I appreciate where I am currently at in life, but I also um often think about leaving the states temporarily, maybe for a year, 2 years, because it's difficult. You like here, I don't really get a break. I'm always working. I'm always, making the most out of the opportunities I'm given. And it's like, for my mental health, I didn't really get a chance to just breathe. And that's my biggest issue with the States. It seems as though the culture is so work oriented that we don't get a time to breathe, a time to just say, okay, I went through this, I'm going through this. Let me take 3, 4, 5, 6 months off for mental health reasons. And it's like if you start to have those type of conversations, a lot of people will think, oh, you're just lazy, oh, you don't want to work. At least that's my perspective. And I don't think that mental health is often prioritized. I'm not going to go into the story of what happened to my father, because it's really painful and tragic and very traumatic. But I will say that his death has given me life, but it's also bittersweet because I do wish that he could see some of my accomplishments and where I am at currently. And my dad passed, and then a year or so after my dad passed, my brother passed also. So I lost my dad and my brother. And I don't usually like to use those words when people pass, the lost word, because I believe in um, a life after this life. But I do think in their situations, it felt premature. That's why I would say lost. So one of the things that gets to me here and living in the States is, on one hand, I make a decent amount of money. I'm blessed by even American standards. And yet, it's difficult to be happy here because I find that we're always trying to get to the next level. We're always trying to reach a certain point in order to say I have arrived. And at this stage in my life, at 29 years old, I no longer really care about trying to make so much money or basing my personal worth on how much money I make. At this stage in the game, realizing that one day we're all going to die, what I think about is having a certain quality of life that I can appreciate. And I would like to have a certain quality of life over having an abundance of money. And clearly I'm blessed. I mean, you know, but at the same time, I don't want to base how I view my blessings just in monetary things. You know, I took a physical about a month ago, 2 months ago, when I was getting another insurance policy, and my health was great. I'm in great health. I don't smoke. I currently the last this whole year I haven't drunk anything. I've been sober. I told myself this year I wasn't going to drink. Not that I ever really had like a severe problem or anything like that, but I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just abstain from alcohol, and that has improved my overall well-being a lot. I think, and so overall I'm doing well. However, I think that I'm reaching a point where I think about my job, trucking, and I'm in a blessed position trucking. And I team drive. I have a great co-driver. He helps me a lot. I get to bounce a lot of ideas off of him. And, I tell him all the time what I think about the industry. I bounce ideas about him about the future, other business endeavors, but as well as that, I just see trucking as a stepping stone for me, not necessarily something that I think I'm going to do for the next 10 years, anything like that. I really see myself stepping out of the industry at maximum 4 years, but I'll be willing to leave the game in 2 or 3 years. But trucking has done a lot for me. Recently, I purchased a house overseas, and that was a big accomplishment for me. Um, right here, I got my passport booklet, and I have my passport right here. And next week, I'm going overseas again to take some time off. And last year, I went overseas 4 times. And partly because I am really digging a young lady who lives overseas, but also because when I'm overseas, I feel like I could breathe. Of course, my dollar goes a lot further, but I think that I could breathe and relax. And when I'm here, it always seems as though I'm unable to do that. It's like I always have, especially with trucking, it's like go, 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 go. But then when I look at other careers, sure, some people get to come home after work, but I think that the entire American work culture is centered around on one's ability to earn money for the elites and not mental health. So I'm gonna share my screen for a second. And this was me traveling. I had just landed on this picture. I'm in Cuba, and this wasn't my first time in Cuba. This is maybe like the second time I visited Cuba, and the smile that I have on this picture, just when I look at it, I was like, wow, look how happy I am. And not saying that I don't experience feelings of joy in the States, because I do. But when I'm overseas, I really do feel like a weight is lifted off of me that is hard to describe. Now, this is the picture right here with my girl and I. And, again, I look so happy on this photo. And that's kind of what I started really sitting back thinking for a second, like, wow, um, when are you most happy? When do I feel most at peace with the world around me and myself? And ultimately, of course, is when I'm with, you know, Delanese, but it's also when I'm traveling. And then I found these videos of other people who was experiencing the same thing.
Living in America is mentally exhausting. So I live in Florida. We have a hurricane coming, and I just went to the store because I needed another power bank. I have one, but I was like, just in case this actually comes, let me get another power bank, so that if the power goes out, I'm good. I have everything else. I'm always prepared for hurricanes.
Her title says living in America has become so mentally exhausting. And I feel that to the max. I feel mentally exhausted here, yo. Like, and it's not to complain, it's just to tell the truth. Um, I work hours a week, and I work about 60 hours a week, and I was experiencing some things, and I had to drive through the city where my brother was murdered, and it was so tough for me, and I had to do it, no matter if I didn't want to do it because it's my job, right? And it was hard to express that, and I felt a lot of anxiety even trying to express. I couldn't call the company and be like, man, I had this going on. Like my brother, went through this, did this traumatic death, and I have to drive through the city where this occurred. You know what I mean? So it was just it was a lot, and I just started thinking like, yo, I don't have to do this. Now I didn't quit my job or anything like that, but I'm thinking like, if money wasn't involved in this situation, would I be here? No. And you know, I was uh I was in New Orleans, Louisiana, and it was very traumatic for me. Like I literally cried while I'm driving. Like an hour into driving before I even got to the city, I was just really having um a lot of feelings of anxiety, and I completed my job. I did I dropped the load, and then when I got out of there, I really sat back and I thought about everything. And a couple weeks later, I get routed back to the same place again, and the same thing happened. And that's when I realized, like, okay, like this is a pattern. Like this is something that I'm experiencing that is bringing about some extreme feelings of discomfort for me. Like I don't like it. And so I decided that I would find a way out. I was like, all right, I asked myself, like, okay, how much money do I actually want to make? And then, at the time, making more money than most people, I'm thinking like, okay, well, I'm making six figures, and you know, I'm able to do a lot more and things of that nature. Like I'm trying to justify why I am staying on this career path, but all of the benefits are really monetarily. Outside of the fact that I'm able to travel internationally now, and I don't have to ask anyone for money and stuff, but it's parts of the job like that that I really hate. And I realized that it's not the job's fault why what happened to my brother or what happened to my father. But having to drive through those places and feel those feelings is a lot for me. It really is. And I even felt uncomfortable. And so I ended up telling my lady, like, hey, I went through this. This is how I'm feeling. And that was very tough for me because I didn't like feeling vulnerable in that way, and I felt really vulnerable. And I also really had to take a look at myself and say, okay, you're strong because you're able to do it, and there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable, right? That's a sign of strength. But ultimately, I started thinking about leaving the country, and so next week I'm out of here, right? I got my passport right here, and I'm taking a break, yo. Like, I'm taking a break, and consequently, right now, my my work truck is in the shop, and so I end up getting some extended time, and so I was already going to leave to go overseas, but I leave in a couple days at the end of this week, and I'm going overseas. And every time I'm overseas, I just feel so happy. Like when I'm here, I don't feel those same feelings. And so I'm gonna just share me. And this is me at the I landed at my destination, and just how happy I look on this picture. It's like I don't have that same energy when I'm here. You know what I mean? Like I really don't. But life is what we make it, right? So I was like, okay, well, let me do something else. Like, let me catch a vibe and just do whatever I want to do. Like, I don't have to stay here. Like, I could do other things. And then when I'm in other places too, like, I was in Colombia, and as I was in Colombia, I was happier in Colombia. This was right after COVID. I was just happier while I was in Colombia. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, B, if you're happier over there, like why are you here? Right? Like, why am I here? Right? Like, what am I doing here if I'm happier over there? And then I started thinking about all of the responsibilities that I have here. I thought about my family. I thought about my mom and what she has gone through as a mother and a wife. And I was like, well, finding balance, right, in it all. So traveling has helped me a lot to find balance, but I've been really thinking about just taking a total sabbatical, you know, just taking like maybe um 6 months off and just leaving. Right. I was looking at apartments. This is an apartment, a 3 bedroom apartment for 961, right? And I was like, it's nice. I could just leave. I'll be back in Cartagena. And, I was looking at other locations also. And I was also thinking about Mexico. Like, man, I could just leave for maybe 3 months in Cuba and um 4 months in Mexico, another the rest of the year here. Sometimes I think about probably just working 6 months in the States, 8 months in the States, and living 4 months overseas. Just like a time that I could just breathe for a second. You know what I'm saying? Just breathe for a second, right? And I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I have I'm a sober person, and but I do still feel anxiety from the lifestyle here. Like I was doing the mathematics on everything. I'm like, yo, I have to make $30,000 just for my investment accounts, my insurances, and to stay afloat, right? To make sure that I'm not just, if something happens to me, that my family is good, that my investment accounts are growing. And I'm like, man, like $30,000 just for my car insurance, my life insurance. You know what I mean? Plus whatever they take out of my my the money that I make for health insurance. And but I don't complain. I get up and I go to work. I handle my business, and I complete the mission that I'm on, that I set out for myself. You know, and I do like my career. I like my career. Is not the job itself. The job is cool. You know, um, currently I'm making $2,500 a week. Like that's cool for me. Like I'm not dissing. But when I see things like this, like $841, and I could just go somewhere, I was like, yo, I could just literally just I don't have to live here. And that's kind of what gets me sometimes. It's like, yo, Brian, you don't have to live here. The world is your oyster. Like you could go anywhere you want to go, you know, and you don't have to live here. And I was looking at places in Mexico. This was in Merida, and I was like, I like Latin America because Latin America has like a relaxed time slows down in Latin America. And in the United States, and I love my country. It's a lot. I mean, of course, I love that we make money here. We're about making money in the States, so I love that aspect of it. But I think it's overboard now. Where people are making 70, 80, 100, 150, $200,000, and they're still not happy and they're stressed. When I go to a place and I'm handling some business, I don't even take it personal if the receptionist or the mechanic at the truck stops or the people at the bank. If someone has an attitude with me or they're seen disgruntled, I don't even get mad at them because I'm like, okay, I get it. You're stressed. You probably have a bunch of bills you can't pay. You're stressed. Why would I take it out on you that you're stressed? But traveling really kept my feet on the ground. And when I was on TikTok, I was seeing other people was feeling the same way. I was like, wow, this is really heavy, that so many people are really going through it.
These are three reasons why I'm moving out of the US. Number one is way of living. Now, I do love America in the aspect that you can do anything you want. For the most part, I'll say. For the good majority, you can do whatever you want. You're entitled to do that. You're entitled to make how much money or how little money, do this or that, whatever. But I do think it's also important for me because I don't always want to live in that hustle and bustle. That is one thing that America is. It's sort of hustle and bustle. You can live a slower life in America, but overall, you're going to have somewhat of a fast paced life, especially with technology. So moving overseas, it's a completely different way of life, like in different countries like Mexico and Africa and Asia, wherever. There are a lot of different places who focus on life being life.
And I know that in the States we live a fast paced life. Like, can't, like, listen, I have no immigrants in my family. I've been in America. My family's been in America since it popped off, and no one can tell me that that we don't live a fast paced life here. Rushing to get the kids to school, having to pay mortgages, having to pay insurance, ripping and running, going. uh, you know, People in Jersey City, people in Manhattan, people in New York, people in San Francisco, the Bay, LA, Chicago. No matter where I go, it's the same thing. I'm seeing the same things. And it's just like everyone is just so in a rush. For what? What are we so in a rush for? And this of I empathize and sympathize with others who also feel this way, because what we go through is legitimate, right? No one has the right to delegitimize the way someone is feeling or what they're going through. And simultaneously, while this is going on, we're having mass shootings in our country. It's difficult to make ends meet financially for a lot of people. But then, at the same time, you send your kid to school, they might not make it home. You know what I mean? Like, we have to. I wish that we could hit a reset button. Just reset. And when I realized that in our country, there's no breaks. There's no breaks. You're just going, 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 going. And if I'm not telling the truth, then I would love to hear the alternative. Currently, and not to talk about politics, but we have two people running for president. That's in Biden and President Biden and former President Trump. That's close to 80 years old. They're still ripping and running. At 80 years old, you're supposed to be retired somewhere. If I was them, why would I even want to run the country? But I think that that's a representation of what we are here. It's like it's no breaks. There's no breaks. Just go, 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 go. You know, and traveling has changed my life, like for real. Like, this is me in Cartagena, Colombia, and I went there in 2021, and it changed my perspective. And I'm not fluent in Spanish, but being in Cartagena was a life changing for me. Honestly, like, it was one of the times I was watching my home team, the New Orleans Saints. I'm watching my home team, and while I'm in Cartagena, and I'm just having a blast while I'm there. I'm just really having a blast. Just this is my friend and I. We're riding through the city of Cartagena, and it's just like a totally new experience. And I'm there by myself, right? I literally hopped on a plane and I went there by myself. It's a feeling that I wish that I could give to other people, where it's like, look how scenic this is. Like, come on, guys. Like, let's go on an adventure. And I really started traveling solo dolo, as we call it in Louisiana. I started traveling by myself. That's what solo means. And so I started traveling by myself because I realized that if I was waiting for other people to travel with me, I would probably wait a lifetime. And that's no disrespect to any of my friends and family members. And so that was me in Cartagena. This was me in New York. And I'm just really just enjoying life, right? Yo, like, I can do whatever I want to do with my life, right? I could push it to the limits. And to me, to be honest, New York is a vibe, but I would love to. That was in the winter time. I would love to experience New York. That's my cousin. I would love to experience New York. Um, it, Now it was nice in the winter time. Don't get me wrong, but I would love to experience New York. Um, I was at a concert down there. I would love to experience New York in the summertime. We was so live. Like, and these experiences that people like, you won't I can't get those experiences where I'm from. And that's another thing that makes me want to just travel more, because it's like the experience I would like to have, I can't have those experiences um where I'm from. You know, this is me and my son. This is us in Puerto Rico, and I go for our birthdays are 2 days apart. So I took him to Puerto Rico with me. And all of this was after the death of my father. And I realized I was always close with my son, and I was really close with my father also. Him and my mom were married my entire life, but it made me change the way I wanted to parent my son because I realized, like, wow. But when someone like your mother or your father or your grandparents, you know, when they transition, it does have a huge impact. It make you really reevaluate what's important and what's not important. And it was a cultural experience also because um his little tooth was growing in. It is fully grown now. And just seeing him happy makes me happy, right? Seeing my son happy makes me happy. And look at that. Now I know that every place has its problems. Everywhere has problems. Puerto Rico has problems, which the Puerto Rico, it is still the United States. And I like that too. But Puerto Rico has its problems. Colombia has its problems. Every nation has this problem because of globalization, trade, and all the politics, all that stuff. But not every place is the same. And I just really sit back and I realize that in the United States right now, it's getting ridiculous. I mean, the average price for an apartment is almost $1,800. Mortgages are at least probably $2,500, some more than that. And communities are full of crime, mass shootings, healthcare is a mess. And I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but these things are taking place, and it's only natural to look for solutions.
Life instead of maybe the 9 to 5 hustle culture. I don't want to live in that forever. Number two is the new experiences. Now, I've been in America my whole life. I've been here for 24 years, but I've been outside the country. I've been to France, Italy, Greece, went to Mexico, and I've been.
Something happens to young men when we turn 25, 24, 25. That age right there is when it's like our eyes first open, where it's like, whoa, like, whoa, like and then by the time we like 5, 10, 6, 7 years pass, we really get into, I realize, hey, I can do what I want, right? Um, I can do what I want, or at least allow me to do what I can, right? Let me push it to the limit. And the thing to think about is, why would I want to wait until I am um retired to live life? That's the part that doesn't make sense to me. You know, wait until you're 50, 60, health problems, and all of this other stuff going on, mentally just stressed beyond compare. For what? Now, I don't think that life should just be a big party. And I was looking at alternative careers and getting a digital nomad passport. And these are conversations I bring online because it's difficult to have some of these conversations with people that I know in person because a lot of people don't have the same experiences that I have. So I love coming to the internet and having these discussions as long as they're constructive. You're right, because I'm only talking about this for constructive purposes. But I love talking about these things and expressing these things because I realize there's other people that's going through the same thing.
Things that have improved significantly for me after leaving the United States of America to live outside of the US.
And I don't think that when people say that, I don't think that as an American, that should make other Americans disgruntled. Like I posted something on one of my a short on my YouTube channel, and it had is a woman talking about leaving the United States. It has 10K uh views, and people have really ugly comments like, "Oh, I'm glad that you left." Um, good riddance. And I'm like, yo, like, why are you mad because someone said that they wanted to leave the United States? And some people leaving to them may only be a year, 2 years, 4 years, a decade, whatever. Who cares? How are you going to get mad at someone on the internet that you don't even know? But once again, like I say, here, so many people are so disgruntled. So many people walk around angry here. For example, and this really happened. This really happened, right? Okay. So a guy posted online that he lives overseas. He lives in Brazil, but his name is Skyler. You could check out his YouTube. Just Google Skyler in Brazil. Uh, so he's was in the Air Force, and he lives in Brazil. So he lives in the same vicinity of where I live in the Texas area. So between Texas and Louisiana. So he comes back to Texas to visit his family, and he says he's on the interstate and he doesn't drive as much as he used to because he lives international. He lives abroad. And he said that he swerved in someone else's lane. Like he kind of not completely into their lane, but veered a little bit past the white line. He said that the guy in the other lane, and he said he quickly course correct. He said the guy in the other lane got on side of him and pulled out a firearm. The guy pulled out a firearm, man, because somebody uh uh ran over the dotted line. And as a trucker, people do that to me all the time. So it would it be right for me to say, "Oh, look, somebody got in my lane without using their signal. Like, let me pull out a chopper or AR-15 or something." Like, like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't like what's going on doesn't make sense. Um, so many people are so angry here. There's a lot of anger. So many people are just angry, and I don't like that. Like generally, even though I go through what I go through, I'm overall a happy person. Now it's things that I dislike, but I'm not unhappy to the point to where I want to hurt people or anything like that. That's that's just, in my opinion, evil.
Living in Northern Ireland for the last 5 months. The first thing is my mental health.
And I dare any American to tell me when they go out to the movies and or to the store that they don't feel a certain sense of fragility or discomfort or paranoia that something is going to happen to them. If I look over to my right, I have about 4, 5 cameras covering the whole perimeter of my house. Look how we're living, right? You have to keep cameras, ring cameras on your phone for when you're not home because somebody may break into your house. Cameras here, cameras there. Um, you know, people advocating carry your gun. And I'm from the South, okay? My dad was a U.S. Marine. So I understand defend yourself and things of that nature, but it gets to a point where the paranoia is going to reach a point where someone is going to hurt an innocent person, or they're going to look to the gun for a solution, and it may not be the best solution, right? And if a person is carrying a firearm, any problem that they have, the firearm seems like the best solution. And we have to kind of take a step back away from that for a second. The states are passing legislation saying that you don't in Louisiana now you don't even need a permit to conceal carry. Texas the same way. You could just now, wow, that's great. Protect yourself. What does that mean for everyone else? For the person who is off their meds or something? It's just going to be violence in the streets. So I understand why people are paranoid. I get it. You know, I get it. I do. I get it. And as a trucker who drives all across the country, I end up in some of the most dangerous or seedy or suspect places, Memphis, having to drive through having to drive through places that you're not familiar with out there in Portland, Oregon, and all of these different places where you don't know what could happen. You know what I mean? So I get it. I get it. The Bay, LA, I get it. I get it. But we need to promote a society where we don't have to live like that. People should not have to feel like they have to unalive other people to feel safe. That's just my 2 cents. I wish that didn't exist. I wish that we didn't hurt each other. Is that too much to ask? I wish that our kids could play outside, right? And that no one is going to hurt our kids or kidnap our kids. You know, this is I don't even think that's asking for too much. To have some type of decency, right? And shout out to all of the police officers, people in law enforcement, lawyers, attorneys, paralegals, because you guys, y'all have a tough job. And I'm not going to say that I always think that the justice system is working in my benefit, but I will say it is a lot of people within the justice system that's trying to promote justice, but they're unable to do so because of bureaucracy and so many laws put in place that stops them. I have friends that's attorneys, I have cousins that's attorneys and things of that nature. So I understand, I work in insurance, or I used to work in insurance, and I understand even in insurance, sometimes you can have a product you're promoting to help someone in their time of need. And because they're so distrustful of the system that they don't even take the life insurance or the health insurance that would benefit them. And then when the problem occurs, they're creating GoFundMe's. They don't have it. So it's a lot. We need a reset button. And if we can't change the world, let's focus on changing ourselves. And I understand that we live in a global society, but sometimes just leaving for a second maybe could help, right? Uh, a lot of psychologists say that when people go through traumatic things, one of the key things that should happen is they should leave where the traumatic experience happened. So many people are living in the same home, the same city, the same state where something traumatic has happened, right? Imagine all of those families who are affected by school shootings. You think that a lot of those people still live there? Imagine having to drive by the school where something so traumatic occurred.
My mental health is so much better than it was in the US.
This lady has tears in her eyes, guys. Look at that. When she's talking about how her mental health is better because she took a sabbatical. I got mine right here. So I'm not telling anybody what they should do. But I know for me, I would bounce.
Specifically, my anxiety disorder. Anxiety used to literally cripple me and was the bane of my existence. I've noticed a significant decrease in my anxiety symptoms and also in my passive depression symptoms. So I would go through periods of high anxiety and periods of low depression. I've had very few low depression days since I've been here, and my anxiety is so much better than it was. My physical health has improved. I walk way more. It's just a more normalized thing here. People walk everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of cities in the States are just unwalkable. I'm going to go back to looking at apartments. Um, this is one of my favorite cities in the world. I wonder, do you have a favorite city? Right? I thought maybe that was my son. Do you have a favorite city? Look, $841. I'm just thinking about how I would just dip. I would just dip. I would just leave. But, maybe just for a few months, just for a few months. So many people need a reset. So that's my stream, you guys. My son is up. I tell everybody be kind to yourself, love yourself, enjoy your life. You only get one. Peace.